Right, good evening everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Executive Committee. Can I ask you to make sure that your mobile phones are either on silent or on flight mode? Come on, Kai, make sure it is. Right, so we'll start straight off. Item 57, the minutes. Are there any issues or corrections on the minutes? If not, I will sign them. Okay, I assume that's okay, so I'll sign them for that. Item 58, apologies.
Chairman, there are no apologies.
Good. 59, any declarations of interest?
Yeah, I'm a member of Early Town Council, so I'd like to declare an interest in the item about the transfer to Early Town Council and legal reimbursement.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. So straight into the public question time. Jill Purchase, is she here? Nope, not again. So we'll make sure that she has a full written response to her question. EP2, Denise Lowen?
Yes.
If you could move forward and speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Why did members of the council not listen to the obvious solution of health and safety regarding Hurst Golf Course from many concerned parties? All that was necessary to ensure public safety, which I understand is paramount, was to install very high nets near the public areas. Moving tees, greens, has made the course extremely short, getting rid of the only par 5 on the course, poor maintenance and charging extortionate green fees would naturally result in a huge number of golfers deciding to play elsewhere and a massive loss of income for the council.
Thank you for your question. We've been advised that due to the profile of the site, it will require fencing to a minimum height of 25 metres to protect the course boundaries. And this clearly is not acceptable in terms of landscape or financial viability. The reconfiguration, which has resulted in a shorter course, was a necessary action resulting from an in-depth health and safety assessment of the course. The golf course has been maintained appropriately within the tight financial constraints we have operated under. And in fact, we received good feedback prior to the changes required following this health and safety report. Green fees are considered to be appropriate and competitive. The measures we are proposing will offer opportunities for the site to return an income to the council and deliver enhanced facilities for a wider proportion of our community.
So do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. What public golfing facilities are you planning to offer in the borough as Hurst is closing? Because there aren't any golfing now in the borough.
Within the borough, there is no pay and play courses. There are many courses around, and there are at least 4 other pay and play courses at a reasonable distance, depending where you live. Not every borough has a need to provide such a facility, and clearly this one is just not big enough to provide the sort of course that people would wish to play in a fully competitive way.
Although it was very lucrative.
Can I please ask the audience to hold their comments to themselves? It's not really appropriate. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your question. Is Dorothy Underwood here? Since there is such an interest in the Hurst, Councillor Ross will actually provide the answer, even though she's not here.
The question was, why is it proposed to close Hurst Golf Course at such short notice, stating the number of users has dropped, but without making any effort to publicise the golf course in order to attract more users to what is and always has been a most attractive and challenging course. Just before I read out the answer to that, the course, definitely in the 20 years I've known it, has never been lucrative to the council, even in the best days. Anyway, the answer to this particular question from Dorothy Underwood: in late 2013, Hurst Golf Course was subject to a detailed health and safety assessment. We made swift amendments to the course configuration to accommodate the mitigation of the significant risks. While this allowed for play to continue, customer reaction has been significant, with rounds and takings around 50% of the last year. We have managed to keep the course open for the busy part of the season. However, to minimise future financial risk to the council, consideration has been made to change the use of the site to improve the outdoor recreational offer to the wider community. There are many local golf courses that provide a challenging and enjoyable experience for golfers, and it's felt there is capacity for a relatively small number of golfers currently playing at Hurst.
Thank you, Angus. Is Avril Haynes here? No, so we'll do the same thing. Off you go again, Angus.
Her question, Avril Haynes, as a member of Hurst Ladies Golf Club, is why has Hurst Ladies not seen the health and safety report as requested nearly a year ago? Meeting with Chris Buggy at the end of last year, we were told we would be able to see a copy. To date, this has not been the case. Why? Comment: I'm aware that seeing the report now will make no difference whatsoever. Clearly the decision was made many years ago. However, I would like to say that everything relating to Hurst Golf Course has been conducted in such an underhand way, with the council not knowing how to tell the truth or be honest with us. My answer to that is the council commissions a number of professional reports for different services to support it managing these services safely and effectively. The report in question is one of many such documents which are not necessarily routinely distributed to service users. I've seen the report and have been supportive of the work staff have carried out to minimise the significant risks identified in the report. Following receipt of the report, our health and safety specialist officers visited the site and agreed the measures that were put in place following receipt of the report were appropriate. I've also been aware of the efforts made by site-based staff to present the course as well as possible, their endeavours to install the automated irrigation system, create ditches, purchase improved equipment, to construct 2 new greens, all within very tight budget constraints, has demonstrated our commitment to manage the course to date. As a background paper to the report today being considered, the safety report from Golf Designs is available on the council's website. And if I could just pick up one other thing from the question, the decision was not made many years ago.
Thank you, Angus. If you can hold, Clive, if you can just wait, I want to get all the Hurst questions out first. So we'll move on to EP6. Really, Nick Brock is not here, but would you like to provide the answer?
Yes, Chairman. It's a long question and a relatively short answer. I played Hurst Golf Course last year, found it to be a pretty drab affair and not as good as courses nearby privately owned courses, namely Billingbear. So I'm not opposed to the golf course being closed and the land being put to better use. Well done on taking a tough decision there. However, after playing the course last year, I immediately thought that better than a full-size golf course would be a pitch and putt course with holes only 50 to 100 yards in length. This is because Dinton Pastures is clearly a family-focused venue, and a pitch and putt would appeal to the families using Dinton Pastures, whereas a full-size golf course does not. There is no pitch and putt anywhere nearby. So I put forward the motion that Hurst Golf Course could be partially remodelled as a pitch and putt course and partially put to other uses. Conversion costs to a pitch and putt would be minimal and would create an activity which families and children can play to use that is complementary to the great outdoors family fun feel of Dinton Pastures, and it alleviates the bad news story of the golf course being shut down completely. UK Foot Golf may be interested in using the venue too. Greens and bunkers are already there. There's even an ornamental lake around which several of the holes could be modelled. The remainder of the old golf course, approximately 2/3 to 3/4 of it, could then be put to another use, mountain biking, segway riding, etc. I'd like to formally propose this. I'm a council tax-paying resident of working Borough Council with young children, and hope this will boost to working with leisure facilities at minimal cost, whilst giving a greater spread of leisure facilities to Dinton Pastures and putting land and money to better use. Can you confirm you will investigate the low-cost option of pitch and putt golf course being included as part of the redeveloped Hurst Golf Course? And the answer is, after thoroughly examining ways to improve the usage and value of traditional golfing facilities at Hurst Golf Course, the Council is now proposing that the best way of utilising the site is to provide a range of complementary activities for residents to use and enjoy. In response to the specific question, I can confirm that both pitch and putt and UK foot golf are activities for the site that are being investigated. And as I will say again later, once we've done some investigation, we will be consulting with residents, and especially local residents.
Thank you, Angus. Is Ewan Turner here? No. So would you like to provide the answer again?
Yes, Chairman. With Blue Mountain Golf Course closing and Bearwood Golf Course being sold to Reading Football Club, have the Council not considered the long-term potential of the golf course at Hurst? The consultant's health and safety report in November 2013 indicated there could be a solution. The current cheap option of shortening holes and reducing the playing quality of the course has no doubt had an impact. In 2013 there were 19,000 rounds of golf played. With thorough planning, the course could be made financially viable. I think the demand for golf may be slightly greater than the demand for archery, Segway tours, kick golf, triathlons. I trust the decision-making executive are aware of the demand for Segway tours in the UK, given that only 70,000 Segways have been sold worldwide. And my answer to that question is the Council have considered a range of investment options for the Hurst Golf Course, including the option of making a substantial investment to significantly improve the quality of the facilities available. In considering these options, we were not able to determine a satisfactory level of assurance the Council will be able to generate an appropriate level of return for this level of investment of public funds. A key factor in our considerations for reinvesting in the Hurst Golf Course is the number of other high-quality golfing opportunities locally. And all alternative activities considered for the site will be assessed on their ability to offer opportunities to a wider section of our community and their financial viability. And as I said in the answer to the previous question, we will be consulting on that.
Thank you, Angus. Mandy Creech, if you would like to step up and ask your question.
Good evening. The number of golf rounds increased in 2013-14. It was inevitable that with the temporary closure, alterations and temporary arrangements made during 2014-15 that the number of people playing golf would drop. Can I ask what measures Working Council took to counter this? For example, reduction in charges, promotions, publicity. I'm only aware of actions that the Council took to further reduce participation, for example, allowing parking on the tees.
Thank you for your question, Angus.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for being here to hear the answer. In the past, the Council has reduced the charge for using the golf course when over half the greens in play were temporary. This has included times when work is being conducted on the golf course and during the winter because of adverse weather. This approach to pricing is considered consistent with the course presentation. This reduction was in place during some of the time the new greens were being constructed. In most of the year, we had 3 matted tees to play on, with the remaining tees as standard, and our 2 new greens were in full play all year. I can also confirm there were no parking on golf course tees this year. However, parking was made available on a limited number of occasions on the first fairway. And I could just add that even in the best times, as I said earlier, this course wasn't making money for the council or ratepayers either.
Do you have a supplementary?
Well, yes, when were we offered reduced fees? Because we played there during that period, and we actually asked for reduced fees, and we were never given reduced fees. So are we due some sort of rebate for the money we paid out?
I haven't got the exact timings in relation to...
Well, we played there weekly every week, so...
I'm not saying that I don't understand. I don't know exactly when rates were changed.
Well, I tell you, they weren't changed.
Yeah, but how they were changed in relation to the state of the course. I was aware at the time of it, but I don't have the information here, so I can't answer the question. I will take it outside of the meeting.
Yes, because they definitely weren't changed.
Thank you very much. So that's the last public question on the Hurst Golf Course. Clive, would you like to step up and ask your question?
My question is for Angus. Is the council aware that the developers at Sibley Park have been filling in drainage ditches along the boundary of the site and the rear gardens of properties in Red Hatch Drive?
Good evening, Clive. Again. The filling of a ditch to the north Red Hatch Drive side of Sibley Park was reported to the council on Friday the 24th of October, and also one of our local councillors, sitting very close to me here, followed up by having been alerted by a resident. In line with our standard procedure and also the monitoring of work at development sites that we do, an enforcement officer visited the site on Monday the 27th of October to investigate. We're now looking into the issue and to assess if the works to the ditch comply with what had been previously approved as part of the development of the site, or the details that have been submitted to the council to deal with drainage as part of a condition. This will be done in consultation with the council's drainage expert. A full response and update will be given to the complainant shortly, and once this investigation has been completed, I'll be very happy to send you a copy.
I'm sure you have a supplementary.
I do, thank you very much. My understanding is that very small pipes have been used in these ditches, and the ditches are currently several feet deep. And on several occasions in the last few years, these ditches have been very full of water. What can be done to ensure that this infilling doesn't lead to flooding in future on the north side of Red Hatch Drive and behind the new houses in Sibley Park?
I'll answer that in two parts. Firstly, the drainage expert will be looking at this particular site, and part of that will obviously be to check that what was agreed in the condition really was robust enough. The second part is that I've initiated a full investigation into ditches right across the borough. So we've got a better record of them, and this is part of our work under the Flood and Water Management Act, and then to identify which of those ditches are critical in times of either groundwater or fluvial flooding. So in the short term, we're looking at the specific one. In the longer term, we are taking very seriously ditches which were mostly there and it was all farmland for very good purposes, and have got mixed in with development in many cases. We do need to address that.
Thank you very much.
So we now move on to member question time, and the first one is Tim Holland.
And back to the golf course. Yeah, I asked the question standing in my name.
Thank you, Tim. I'm happy to confirm there was no intention to build houses on this golf course, as the report makes clear the area will remain open, and we will be investigating the introduction of a variety of alternate leisure uses. We're proud of our country parks and the opportunities for recreation and leisure they offer.
Thank you. I do have a supplementary, Keith, and it is, I and the residents welcome the prospect of widening the use of an area which has been very underutilised in recent years. I have noticed, though, that particular areas are well used by wildfowl that visit the lake. Will some areas be set aside specifically to ensure they are not disturbed by free-running dogs?
The Dinton Pastures total area is very large, as you know, and therefore there's plenty of space to provide for different uses right across. In the west side, nearest to Woodley, there's Mortimer Wet Meadows, which is mainly for dog walking. There are lakes where dogs are not allowed, and where the emphasis is on environmental and biodiversity. We then come into the higher intensity people uses around Black Swan Lake and the area that we're talking about this evening. And I see that as very much being retained, so that there is these different special areas within Dinton Pastures. And just to add to the first part of the question, very recently Canterbury City Council refused an application which they put in to develop on a golf course. It was seen as unsustainable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay, would you like to step up and ask your question?
Excuse me, I'm suffering my problem with my ears again. I asked the question in my name.
Sorry. I'm so sorry to have to say this, but as with your question in September, the basis for your question is seriously flawed. In September, you were asking for the council to publish information that was actually already published on a web page. You were totally unaware of that web page, which was started on the 7th of February 2013, not quite 2 years ago. In my answer to your September question, I clearly stated, in fact, and this is a quote, in fact it goes further than your list and provides full financial reports as lodged with Companies House. It is a shame that you clearly did not look at these reports, which are legal documents, which provide the information you asked for in September. Please allow me to help you again, as I did when I provided the web address of this company's page, which you were unaware of. The relevant pages are, on the Optalis financial report, page 2 lists the directors, page 5 explains their roles. Okay, so you've got them. But for the purposes of the video, etc., page 3 provides their remuneration. On Well, it's page 2, directors, 3 roles, 14 remuneration. And WHL, page 2, directors, page 2, roles, and page 25, their remuneration. So how did you get it so wrong? Following the September meeting, I anticipated that you might overlook the financial reports, even though I clearly pointed you in that direction. Therefore, I asked officers to pull all this information together into a simple single sheet, which was put on the web page on the 25th of September, which is the date you mentioned in your question. You asked me if my answer is misleading. The answer is an emphatic no. I'm sure you have a supplementary.
I most certainly do. You mentioned twice that we were not aware of the website. In fact, we were well aware of it. It is why we asked the question. I have a copy of the said website dated 22nd of September. It's important for that. It's an important date because it's after our question but before the last executive meeting. Whilst I acknowledge the site did mention a number of council directors, the information on that date was inaccurate and incomplete. It also did not include any of the information we requested. Why then, at the last executive meeting, did you not acknowledge that you found that the information was not complete and had decided to update the information rather than give the impression that the information was already there?
As I said, the information was there in the Companies House full financial reports, and I provided a full copy of the website which did have that
I
information.
have that information here.
I'm
and there's
sorry.
information missing.
Sorry, the data is there. I've given you the pages. You may dispute that, but I've given you the pages. They're still up there now, and they were before. Thank you.
Incomplete.
Next question. Prue.
Good evening. In January 2013, the Executive agreed the extension of the 3 park and ride contracts from the 5th of February 2013 to the 4th of February 2014. All 3 contracts are currently operating under a contract extension until the date of availability of the new site at Woolwich train station is known. No further park and ride contract extension requests have been to the Executive since January 2013, and the Constitution, paragraph 12.2.24.2d, sorry, that's a long reference, states that a contract may not be extended more than once without the approval of the Executive. What process was used to extend the 3 contracts from the 5th of February 2014?
John?
Thank you for your question, Prue. There are 3 contracts which are associated with this operation. One for the car parking, one for the management and Reading buses. Although the contractual arrangements have been extended to cover the current period and through to the expected end date for the current site, which is March 2015, unfortunately, due to an oversight, officers omitted to refer the matter to the Executive for final approval, as per the Constitution. I've discussed this with officers and I'm convinced they were acting in the best interest of the users of the service, and this was a genuine mistake. Any risk to the authority during this time has been mitigated by close monitoring of the service and the contractors providing it. A paper is being prepared for the Executive in November to retrospectively approve the extension. The officers have apologised for this oversight and made it clear that they are committed to taking steps to make sure that such a problem does not occur in the future.
Thank you for your answer. I do have a supplementary. Thank you, Keith. And I recognise that this happened before you were in charge of this area, and I'm grateful for your answer that it will be corrected. But there isn't a lot of point in having contract regulations if they're not adhered to. So I wonder if you can guarantee to me that this has not happened on more than one occasion.
No,
No. Will you look, please?
I will.
Moving on to the next question from Tom.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to read my question out, but I do consider this issue has come before us through inept leadership, and of the people who I've spoken to since hearing this, they also consider this as an act of golf and vandalism by this borough to users of this service.
Tom, to go to your question, of course it's disappointing we've been presented with significant challenges as a result of the detailed health and safety assessment, which have resulted in a requirement to reconfigure the course. As there's a very healthy local supply of quality golfing facilities, which we believe has the capacity to absorb the relatively small number of golfers currently using the course, it's not felt to be a council priority to invest its resources in presenting the 9-hole course. Our intention to build upon the success of Dinton Pastures and offer alternative recreational activities for the whole community is something we're excited about. Inevitably, when new, unique and successful projects are initiated, there will be teething problems, but we believe the huge success of the play park this year has clearly demonstrated the need for family-based activities that are innovative and exciting. Tom, it's been the leadership of Conservative councillors which has addressed the issues that have arisen. The play area, I'm sure you will agree, has been a great success, and we want it back in the splendid condition it was on opening. We will not close it for 6 months and plan to make it more robust and able better to withstand the usage of the dedicated users. It's a pity you cannot work with us to ensure the widest possible opportunity for all our residents, rather than exaggerating every aspect which you allege is not 100% and laying incorrect blame on those of us intent on providing new and well-used facilities for our residents in these challenging economic times.
I'm sure you have a supplementary, Tom.
Indeed. About 4 years ago, members of the Denhurst Golf Club came here and asked you, and didn't quite demand, but really encouraged you not to go down the route that you were insisting on going down, because they predicted then that it would lead to the inevitable closure of this golf course. Why didn't you listen to them then, and will you apologise to all those hard-working users of this facility who you have let down?
Firstly, this council has never recognised a Hurst Golf Club. It has been a Hurst Golf Course. It has never had under its aegis a Hurst Golf Club. And of course, we are sad that we've had to propose this action, which Executive will be looking at later. But for both safety and financial reasons, I think you must agree the agenda item does cover all the points there.
So that's a no to apologising to the users. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Michelle?
I'll shorten the question just a little bit. In light of the delays on the Station Link Road that continue to move the finish date of the project even further away, is the scheme on budget?
Yes.
I'm sure you have try and make a shorter supplementary.
Can I get a shorter answer?
What are you doing to inform all the Woking residents who use Barkham, Oxford and Waterloo and Station Road of the changes and the closures, not just the residents near the train station?
I think I have to pass that to my colleague, for whom that is his responsibility rather than mine.
Okay, Rich out. There is a full programme of communications that our comms people will be doing up. There's letters that will be sent to people when they're affected, giving the dates. As you know, I believe you attended a briefing on Friday, which I arranged for the High Rise officer so you're fully up to date. But rest assured, we will be using all our best efforts to communicate with residents when we're closing and opening roads.
Well, it's not just the residents right near the station, which is what you're dropping letters for. It's the wider area of Woking that actually use the station.
We understand that. We'll be using the newspapers and any other media that we've got to communicate.
Thank you, Richard. And can I ask, Andrea, can you make sure, you know, the 8 or 9 things you're doing, you make sure you send a copy? And it is a wider thing. It covers the radio. It's a very similar style as what we did for the Loddon Valley, the Loddon Valley Viaduct. Same sort of range, about 8 things. So thank you. That brings us to the end of the member question times. So we are going to move into the reports, and for the benefit of the few residents that are here regarding the Hurst Golf Club, we're going to move that up to be the next item. But I just need to put a caveat to that. There is a part 2. Part 2 is something that only councillors and officers can discuss, because it's usually commercially sensitive. So if the conversation amongst my colleagues here starts drifting towards that, we may have to suspend it until later. But I'm trying to allow you to be able to go early. So, Angus, do you want to introduce us?
Thank you, Chairman. There is a full report in the agenda, and there's obviously some exposure to some parts of it in the questions earlier. But let me try and just set the scene. This council has a duty to ensure reasonable safety for people using its facilities, and we also have an increasing need to protect the public purse, which indicates we can only subsidise activities in exceptional circumstances. A number of issues have led to bringing this report and recommendations to executive. One is the nature of golf in England, where the number of players has decreased over recent years. Also, there are 12 other courses in the area, and 4 of which are pay and play, as I mentioned earlier. Hurst was opened in 1978, and taking account of modern equipment, and that's both golf clubs and balls, it is a very small area. 22 hectares is very small for a 9-hole course. I realise a number which has progressively decreased over the years have enjoyed the course, but recent events where balls caused injury to people outside the course initiated an independent report which advised of some measures to reduce this safety risk. The report was corroborated by another expert. The course was modified, seriously reducing the length and requiring new greens, which were carried out at a small cost. Our subsequent review shows we would need an investment of over £100,000 to make any reasonable golf offering, and much more to provide a high quality course, neither with any assurance of recouping this investment. And of course, investment of money that's highly required for other priorities. And meanwhile, we will be continuing revenue losses, £50,000 this year alone, if the recommendations tonight were not agreed. We believe we can put together a package of uses for the area of Dinton, which can provide for many more of our residents and not incur the continuing losses. I'd be very sorry to see the golf course closed, but for the reasons I've outlined, I see no alternatives. The recommendations on page 76 include closing the area to golf from November the 3rd to reduce our expenditure on the grounds maintenance and expensive operation for the turf quality only required for golf. And of course, from November, the weather does make golf less attractive, but I do realise there are some very hardy people that continue to play in any weather. Also, to continue our work as part of the Dinton Vision Part 2, which we will consult with residents, especially those living close to Dinton, as soon as possible. Happy to take questions, Jack.
Any questions? I have one. I've had some correspondence from a particular resident suggesting that the approach we're taking, i.e. bringing this report here to the executive, is actually violating our duty of care. I wonder if you'd like to comment on that.
I believe that it is inevitable that we've reached this point, and we've seen no alternatives which are reasonable to follow up in terms of providing golf and preserving our financial status. So I don't believe that that would be required. However, for instance, tomorrow morning we've contacted as many golfers as we've got contacts for, and we've arranged a meeting, and myself and officers will meet the golfers at Dinton Pastures at 9:30 tomorrow morning, go through any of the points that they wish, take any questions there, so we'll have a continuing dialogue to try and help them.
So just to be utterly crystal clear, the process we followed has not violated any law or any government guidelines?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Thank you, Chairman. My question was following on from a question from Nick Proctor, and also the recommendation for number 2 about the fine turf management ceasing from November the 3rd. If this is stopped from November the 3rd, how easy is it, following the consultation, if there's a strong will to go down the route of pitch and putt, for example, will that be easy to put in place after that, if the turf management has ceased, and would that would there be an increase in cost in order to put that back in if that has ceased from that period?
As long as we make the decision of what we do within a reasonable period, of course from November the grass doesn't grow very much, because we have an incredibly mild winter, and it would take quite a time to degrade, so it would not stop us being able to put parts of the fairways into another use, were that to be seen as a viable option.
If there's no more questions, I'll move straight to the vote. You see the recommendations, there's 3 there. Let's take them all together. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we'll skip back now. If our friends from the conference feel free to leave. Item 62, page 9, revenue monitoring. Anthony?
Thank you, Chairman. The pages on page 9, I'm pleased to report that the current projected overspend is down to 248,000, and I would expect that to come down further between now and the end of the financial year. Additionally, the schools grant is underspent by 139,000, so again that shows good financial management as far as the schools money is concerned. I'm pleased with the level of reserves currently. The HRA is in a good position. There was money that we have, and investment monies that we have, which we mainly have partly because of government grants in respect to particularly schools projects that we receive early, and also because a lot of our residents pay their council tax in April, so we get a lot of money at the beginning of the financial year, and you can see how we have invested our money. And also draw your attention to the rates of return that we currently get, which is largely between 0.5% and 0.75%. But I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Pauline?
Sorry, my arms are too short for the microphone. There's been stories circulating in my area that you confirmed at full council that we lost £1 million through the Icelandic Bank investment. I don't recognise that figure and I can't see it in here. I'm just wondering if you could comment or explain.
Yes, we invested 5 million in Icelandic.
The microphone's gone.
Oh, sorry. We invested 5 million in Icelandic banks in 2008, and we have received back £4,779,000, which is approximately 95.58% of our money back. And we recently did a deal to sell part of the debt, which has meant that we have all the money back now rather than just some of it on the drip. So I think that we have done a good job in achieving that. Some of that was delayed because of questions around the security of our money with one of the Icelandic banks and had to go through a tortuous court process, but we achieved that. So losing £1 million would be 20% loss, and I think we're on 5%, so no, I don't recognise that.
Thank you, Chris. Pauline?
Thank you. A question on a different subject, actually. I'm sorry I didn't give you notice in advance, I just thought about it. When you've got a reduction in, or an underspend on dedicated school grant, what happens to the money?
My understanding is that stays within the school's budget and carried forward to next year, and I think they'll probably need it.
If there's no more questions, just all those in favour of noting the report, please show. Right, that's that. You're up again. Page 17, capital monitoring.
Capital monitoring is set out on the various pages 18, 17, 118 and following. As you can see, there have been some more 106, release of 106 money, which is picked up in the question I answered earlier. Again, the size of our capital spend has increased substantially in the last few years, and we're sort of spending sort of 20 to 30 million a year. We're now spending sort of 30 to 50, best part 50 million a year. The profile in page 20 has been slightly amended because we tend to approve money for budgets and it takes us 12 to 18 months to actually complete them. So we are profiling what we expect to spend in sort of 2 years of the projects. But I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Are there any questions? I have one actually for Anne for advice. On page 18, release of section 106, it says the executive are asked to approve the use of South Oakland strategic development in the location. But that isn't actually reflected in the recommendation.
So just noting that form. Oh no, it says to approve the allocation of 106 projects.
It's Appendix B.
Appendix B. It says both, but we're approving and approving.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So,
which is the case.
We have one question for you. Thank you.
Well, part question, well, I suppose I could make a question. Are you aware that with the release of the Section 106, also recently we have secured now the contribution from a number of the other areas within South Glen 4 and North Wokingham towards sporting and other facilities. So giving us more confidence to go ahead with these capital schemes.
Thank you for that. I know that people in my area will be very pleased to hear that you've finally got confirmation of the 106 on South Glen 4, and we look forward to hearing what you are going to provide for us.
So there is now
We should never
let's move it out from these parochial discussions. If there are no more questions or comments, I'll move straight to the vote for to note the capital monitoring report and to approve the allocation of section 106. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So we move on to page 22, the council plan. This is fairly straightforward, that we actually have to have a plan for a 3-year period, and this is an updated version of our previous plan. It's quite high level. I'm not intending to say anything else, but if there are any questions or comments, I'll try and ask. I'll probably pass them to the executive responsible for that area.
Thank you. I thought I got one, Arms. I'd like to comment really on page 29, where we talk about the strong communities. I've been very fortunate this last month to visit the 5 community development areas, and I've been very taken with the conscientious teams that we have in those locations and the work they're doing, and I really think it is the terrific job that they've achieved so far, and I do believe this vision is strengthening all the time, so I do compliment them on that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise I'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations on page, whatever it is, Page 22. That's unanimous, so that will be approved. So we move on to the next one, which is, I think, John, with your housing allocations, or housing strategy, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. All housing authorities must have in place a housing strategy, setting out the Council's ambition for housing provision, investment and management. The Council's previous housing strategy covered the period from 2010 to 2013. There has been a dramatic change to the housing agenda over this period, and it is therefore timely that the Council reviews its strategy for housing. As a forward-thinking authority, we continue to work with partners and other agencies to explore innovative models of affordable housing and the creation of wider opportunities. This is not just for families, but across all our residents, including young people, older people and those who are vulnerable. For example, through our young people's housing strategy, we have made a commitment to increase the availability of local affordable housing. We have also made it clear a commitment to develop our first community self-build project in the borough by 2018. This will not only help residents access housing market, but will also develop their skills within construction and give them a real sense of pride and achievement. This is an ambitious strategy with a lot to deliver. We fully intend to grasp the opportunity this provides to ensure the borough is a great place to live and an even better place to do business. Thank you, Chairman.
Any questions, Julian?
It's really just a comment, actually. I mean, I know this has been quite a long time in the coming, but I just wanted to congratulate you and Charlotte for putting this together, because I think it gives us a very clear strategy now and sets out what we're going to do over the longer period, which I think has to be a good thing for our residents.
Thank you. Any other? No?
I just for clarity.
Just asking to the next one.
Thanks, but
yes, I think this linked with our affordable housing strategy, the 35% from as policy. I think this is now bringing together another piece of that jigsaw. This is for consultation, I'll stress. So you can see on the bottom of 32, the consultation will start on the 3rd of November and finish on the 1st of December. So if there is no more comments or questions, I'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. And John, you did touch on the young people's housing strategy, so you're up again.
Okay. Would you? Oh, you do that. Share the workload.
If I miss anything, you can pick up. First of all, I just want to say that Councillor Bob Wyatt has played a large part in putting this together as well, and he's very sorry not to be here this evening, but he's feeling a bit under the weather. So, I just also want to say that today seems very apt to be bringing this to executive, because this afternoon I was celebrating with our children in care and care leavers. They had a awards day this afternoon, and some of our care leavers have just moved into secure tenancies, and also some of them are learning about independent living. So it seems very apt that today is today for this particular paper. I'm acutely aware that we as a council and all of us as corporate parents must ensure that there's enough right accommodation for our children in care and care leavers, and it must be the right accommodation at the right time as well. And also you've got to ensure that the journey is right for them to finding that accommodation. And this paper goes, I think, all the way there to ensuring that will be there in the future. We've seen that through this paper, it's not very easy for young people to find the housing needs that they want and they require, and that it's not just one place that you've been to get all of the answers that you need and find the right house. And by this paper, recommendation number 4 is for a single point of access for our young people to find accommodation. I think that is absolutely crucial. A single point of access with someone who's trained to deal with vulnerable young people and care leavers. And I think that will really, really help our young people to get exactly what they need. There's also been some changes in government policy as well recently, and that's the staying put arrangements. So our care leavers who are post-18, who are eligible, are now able to stay in supported lodgings or with foster carers. So that will also change the dynamic in terms of how many new placements we will need as well. So this paper will help assist the extra growing need there. I just thought also I'd touch on the fact that we have 10% of our population in Woking is between age 16 and 25, so that's a huge proportion of young people. And also the number of our care leavers who in future will be needing housing, because on page 56 in the paper you'll be able to see that our 5 to 10-year-olds and our 11 to 15-year-olds bracket has increased in the last 3 years. And so we would be needing to look for what their future needs would be. So really I just want to recommend this paper, and I hope that you will vote for it tonight.
So do we have any questions or comments, John? I'd just like to say one comment on the paper. It's so nice to see a paper that doesn't just set out aspirations but actually sets out action. And if you look at section 2, it's to recommission Seaford Court, which will offer a lot better accommodation than currently there's offered. So I think this is an excellent paper. William?
I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but given that Bob's ill, I wonder if it would be possible to put in the minutes thanks to him formally for all the hard work he's put in this. I know Charlotte's done a lot as well, but I think it'd be nice to mention.
We'll make sure that that's in. And it is interesting, it's another example of the output from a deputy that my predecessor brought in, and I've continued with the principal, and the deputies are there with value, and Bob has done a very good job here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Also, I think this is a really good example of different departments across the council working together, and without that, it's impossible for getting a paper like this together. So I just want to recognise that as well.
And I'm sure that will be minuted and taken back to the relevant officers. So, without further ado, can I see a show of hands in supporting the recommendations? Thank you. That's approved. Pauline? You can get the copies in for them. So, right, Angus, it's one of yours again.
Thank you, Chairman. Red Hatch Copse. Back in last November at the Borough Parish Conference, there was general agreement and enthusiasm for working more closely with our towns and parishes and trying to share some of the work which in my area initially parks and open spaces and such areas looked a healthy place to start. An opportunity has come up with the imminent transfer from the university of the both Red Hatch Copse and some open space and no doubt ditches from Reading University as part of the application and Section 106 legal agreement. Early Town Council, we discussed this with them, were very keen to add this to their already extensive range of facilities that they have, very professionally run, and therefore what I'm asking tonight is agreement that we, as it were, passport this property and the commuted sum associated with it to Early Town Council.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Anthony first.
I would like to welcome the principle, basically welcome this and the principle of looking at which is the appropriate level to undertake this sort of work and this sort of management. And I think when we went unitary some 1978, that we did foresee that there would be opportunities whereby things that we were doing might be better done by the parish councils. I know often it's been a bit of a tortuous process, but it's pleasing to see the parish council, town council sort of saying, yes, actually we can do it and we want to do it and possibly we can do it cheaper than you can. And that's music to my ears.
Julian?
Yeah, I would endorse what Anthony said. I think this is a great idea, and I think to widen it to other towns and parish councils within the borough I think would be a good thing, because I do actually think the town councils quite often do these things on a better scale than we do.
Angus?
I'll just come back on that. And thank you for those comments and support for what we're doing. We're already in fairly detailed discussion with 3 of our other towns and parishes on possible areas where we can do very similar sort of transfers of areas.
John?
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, this is really, this takes forward the localism agenda. I mean, so working with parish councils and town councils is going to be more and more important. Now we've negotiated our not insubstantial SIL money, we will be sharing it with some of them, so we're going to need real working partnerships with them going forward to produce and deliver some of the facilities for residents.
Thank you. Yeah, my only comment would to all credit to Early Town Council. They have a great track record. They're almost a flagship town council. This isn't the first time they've taken something on. They've taken on the youth clubs. They've taken on various other bits and pieces as well, and it's quite a model. And one of the things I will be following up with them to see if they are prepared to talk to other town and parish councils to share their expertise, how they've done it, and how they can do it, because this is absolutely the way forward, absolutely on back and still. So if there's no more questions or comments, all those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. Somebody like to get Colleen back? We decline.
You've got to give us 250 grand back.
Right, moving on. Angus has been very busy. He's still going to be busy. Sustainable drainage system subs charges, page 67.
Thank you, Chairman. This council couldn't wait for the government to bring out regulation on SUDS and went forward with its own interim policy. And we consulted on that, and one of the outcomes from that then is that where we can work with developers, we need a scale of charges for sustainable drainage systems. We hold the discretionary fees and charges list, and this can be added to that. By the way, just on this particular subject, may I just remind the Executive that this council, and I think we were one of few, but unfortunately responded to the recent government consultation, which effectively was suggesting that it would dilute the requirements of the maintenance of sustainable drainage systems. And this is a matter of council and residents concerned who will not be able to guarantee the maintenance if government regulate as the consultation seems to be leading. I know we're not the only council very concerned about this. I hope it doesn't happen. And it doesn't directly relate to this, although there will be less perhaps to agree about if that requirement is no longer placed on borough councils or flood authorities. Anyway, this is just to regularise the charges, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? No. I have one really. How robust are the charges here?
We have gone out and found what others are doing. We have done some checking around, benchmarking, so we believe these are reasonable and appropriate.
Thank you. Pauline?
Just a comment really, I think this is a good step forward in the right direction. We certainly have areas of the borough, certainly in my ward and in other wards, that have problems with flooding. We talked about Red Hatch and Redstock area, and I think this is a good step forward which will help simplify things, so thank you.
Only to say, my mantra now is flooding is a problem, drainage is a solution.
Touché. It's interesting, we're so used to government imposing things on us. Here we are trying to impose something on government. So if there isn't any more comments, questions, I'll go straight to that. All those in favour of the recommendations, please show. That's unanimous. Not to be done. You're on again. Leisure facilities options study on page 7.
I think it is the last one. Yes, the council did a lot of work to look at the requirements that would arise from the SDLs and other development in terms of requirements for swimming pools across the borough. And we came up with 3 possible locations, and this report just brings forward that after discussing that, we have said that the preferred location for an additional 4-lane swimming pool to meet this demand, which will be created over time by the SDLs, be within the Arborfield SDL. This is very timely because we now have the 2 applications and we can merge the work on this with the developers' proposals from those planning applications. I think there were good and sound reasons for this choice and for not choosing either the Carnival Pool area here or at Bullmarsh. This, of course, in no way affects the work that we're committed to do to look at possible redevelopment or refurbishment of Bullmarsh Leisure Centre.
So, Anthony?
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome the fact that we're putting some of these new facilities sort of out in the west of the borough. You know, we're taking quite a lot of population out in the west, and so having facilities for our current residents and also a substantial number of new residents we're going to get, I think is very appropriate. And I think it will also mean that people don't have to drive so far to visit them, and that will be enable people to lead perhaps more healthy lives. Thank you.
Philip?
Yeah, I've got to say I do support this going to Arborfield, despite the fact that it would appear that it would, by certain measures, have been very suitable to go into the Carnival Pool. However, that doesn't prohibit us refurbishing the Carnival Pool. I think I must emphasise that. It's part of what we're reviewing within the regeneration, and I think that's something to look at as well.
Yeah, I think I'll just pick up the point that Anthony made. This provision in general, okay, it's a requirement, but very much fits in with our health and wellbeing and exercise agenda, which we're driving forward very effectively now with the public health team now being in the council.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, we'll move. Sorry, Pauline?
Just a comment to follow on from Anthony, actually. I agree also that this gives a good balance of facilities across the borough. I was interested to see the Long Valley Leisure Centre is actually the biggest pool in the borough, which has completely escaped me. So yeah, that's good, and I think it's the right decision.
Thank you. So if there's no more questions, we'll move straight to that. All those in favour? That's unanimous. And I believe that is the end of tonight's meeting. Thank you everyone for coming. Good night.